On Velocia, the Saranai homeworld, the day unfolded with its usual tranquility. The capital city, with its crystalline spires reaching toward the heavens, shimmered under the light of the twin suns. The air was filled with the gentle hum of the city, a sound of serene contentment that had persisted for millennia. Two Saranai, Plavius and Varin, stood on an observation platform overlooking the city. The light breeze ruffled their crests of vibrant feathers, a striking array of iridescent colors that shifted from deep cobalt to brilliant gold with each subtle movement. These crests, which crowned their elongated skulls, were not only a symbol of their advanced age, but also a mark of high status within their society. Their scales, avian eyes set deep within angular, feather-fringed faces, glinted with intelligence and weight of centuries. As they conversed, their voices, rich and resonant, carried the cadence of authority and wisdom, blending seamlessly with the distant hum of the city below. "Did you hear?" Plavius began, his tone carrying a hint of amusement. "There are rumors that the humans have finally decided to pay us a visit." Varin chuckled, his crest rising in a playful wave. "The humans? Really? I thought they were still busy perfecting their shoes. What could they possibly want with us? They've only just begun to reach out into the stars, and their technology is, well, let's just say it's quaint by our standards." "Perhaps they've discovered a way to strap engines to those shoes of theirs," Plavius joked, earning another laugh from Varin. "Imagine humans racing through space in their little ships, trying to catch up to us. It's a wonder they even know where we are." Their laughter faded as they both gazed up at the sky, enjoying the peaceful expanse. Velocia had always felt distant from the troubles of the galaxy, a place where time moved at a more measured pace. The idea that humans, creatures they had once considered almost amusingly primitive, would ever pose a significant presence on their world was far from their minds. But then the air around them seemed to hum with an unfamiliar energy. The peaceful sky above them darkened, as if something immense was blocking out the light of the suns. Both Saranai looked up, their amusement turning to confusion. "What is that?" Varin muttered, his crest beginning to stiffen with unease. Before they could fully process what was happening, the massive shapes of Terran ships materialized above them, descending with a silence that belied their size. The vessels were sleek and alien, nothing like the Saranai had ever seen. They hovered ominously, casting long, dark shadows over the city. Plavius and Varin could only stare in stunned silence. The humans had arrived, not in a slow, methodical approach as the Saranai would have expected, but with a suddenness that was both disorienting and terrifying. It was as if the Terrans had appeared out of nowhere. "By the ancestors!" Plavius whispered, his voice trembling. How did they get here so quickly?" Varin's crest was flattened against his head, his earlier humor completely gone. I don't know. This wasn't supposed to happen. It should have been at least a Syra. We didn't even detect them coming." The realization hit them both like a shockwave. The humans, whom they had once regarded as quaint and amusing, were now a force to be reckoned with, a force that had just appeared over their world without warning. 1 Yara earlier. The Grand Library of Velocia, a place where the collective wisdom of the Saranai was meticulously preserved, stood as a testament to their long and storied history. Ancient texts, glowing datapads, and holo displays filled the vast halls, each containing records of the countless worlds they had observed, influenced, or conquered over the millennia. Yet among these venerable volumes, one report had become a source of quiet amusement, a curious anomaly in the otherwise serious annals of their civilization. It was the report on Terran footwear. An Exarian had passed since the original report had been filed by the reconnaissance team led by feathered sage Aroth and his young protege, Pluma. Both had long since returned to Velocia, their names fading into obscurity, remembered only by those who still chuckled at the absurdity of their findings. The Saranai had always been a species that prided themselves on their superior evolutionary adaptations, and the notion that a species would rely so heavily on external coverings for their feet was, to them, a source of endless ridicule. In the Saroya following the report, the Saranai Council had occasionally referenced it in jest during their more light-hearted moments. "The Terrans and their shoes," they would say, shaking their crests in mock disbelief. It became a cultural touchstone, a shorthand for anything seen as trivial or unimportant. For 1,000 years, the Saranai had viewed humanity as little more than a species obsessed with their own fragility, bound by the need to shield their vulnerable feet from the world around them. The idea that such a species could achieve anything of real significance seemed laughable. Yet there had always been a lingering question, one that was rarely spoken aloud, but occasionally whispered in the corridors of power. Had Aroth and Pluma missed something? Could there have been more to the Terrans than their peculiar footwear? But such thoughts were quickly dismissed. After all, what importance could there be in a civilization that had shown no interest in the stars, no ambition beyond their own atmosphere? And so, humanity remained a footnote in the Saranai's records, a species catalogued and then largely forgotten, their existence reduced to a single curious obsession. But the universe has a way of upending the certainties of even the most ancient and advanced civilizations. One quiet evening, as the suns of Velocia dipped below the horizon, casting a golden light across the sprawling cities and ancient temples, a signal was received. It was faint at first, barely registering on the deep space sensors that surrounded the Saranai homeworld like a protective web. But as the signal was analyzed, it grew clearer, stronger, unmistakable. It was a Terran signal. And it was coming from deep within the Saranai's own territory, following the end of the path that the object the Terrans had called Oumuamua had once taken through their solar system. The implications were staggering. How were they detecting this just now? And as the realization dawned upon the Saranai High Council, a deep sense of unease began to settle over them. Had the Terrans, those shoe-obsessed creatures, truly followed Oumuamua back to them? Had they somehow achieved what the Saranai had deemed impossible? The answers were almost too incredible to contemplate, but the evidence was undeniable. The signal was not only Terran in origin, but it was also broadcasting on frequencies that suggested technological advancements the Saranai had not anticipated. The time for jokes had passed. The Saranai Council convened in haste, the hollow displays that once mocked the Terran report now flickering with urgency. The ancient halls that had once echoed with laughter were now filled with the murmurs of uncertainty, as the Saranai faced a reality they had never prepared for, the return of humanity, not as a trivial footnote, but as a force to be reckoned with. In the heart of the council chamber, the Saranai leaders gathered, their crests lowered in a rare show of solemnity. The lost remnants of their old mockery had been swept away, replaced by the cold realization that the species they had dismissed as irrelevant had, in the span of 1,000 years, achieved something extraordinary. As the final preparations were made to receive the Terran fleet, the legacy of the Shu report hung heavy in the air. What had once been a symbol of Saranai superiority now stood as a reminder of their greatest miscalculation. Humanity had returned, not as the trivial creatures of a forgotten report, but as a species that had found its place among the stars. And the Saranai, for the first time in millennia, did not know what to expect. The vastness of space, once a daunting frontier for humanity, had become a new realm of exploration and conquest. 1,000 years after the Saranai had dismissed the Terrans as a trivial species, humanity had risen to a level of technological and societal sophistication that none could have predicted. Earth, the cradle of human civilization, now stood as the center of a growing interstellar empire, with colonies spread across numerous star systems and a fleet of faster-than-light FTL ships at their command. On the bridge of the TSV Intrepid, the flagship of the Terran fleet, Fleet Commander Elara Hayes surveyed the stars with a calm, measured gaze. The command deck was a hive of activity, with officers and crew members efficiently managing the operations of the ship. The sleek, advanced technology that surrounded them was a testament to centuries of progress that had catapulted humanity from a planet-bound species to one of the dominant forces in the galaxy. "Commander, the fleet is ready," reported Lieutenant Commander Rahul Singh, Ilara's trusted second-in-command. He stood beside her at the central command console, where a holographic map of the local star system was projected. Ilara nodded.
"Good. Let's begin."
With a slight gesture, the map zoomed in on a specific point, an unassuming star system far from the major hubs of human activity. At the center of this map was a single object, a relic from a time long past, Oumuamua.
"Years ago, we detected faint signals emanating from the path that Oumuamua took through our solar system,"
Ilara began, addressing her officers.
"At the time, we dismissed it as a natural anomaly, a piece of interstellar debris passing through. But as our technology advanced, we began to pick up something more, structured signals indicating an artificial origin."
Rahul stepped forward, activating another display that showed the trajectory of Oumuamua and the pattern of the signals they had detected. "These signals are old, Commander. They've been traveling through space for millennia, but their source is clear. They're coming from the origin of Oumuamua, somewhere deep within this star system." The room was silent as the officers absorbed the significance of this information. Humanity had always been curious, driven by a relentless desire to explore and understand the unknown. The possibility that Oumuamua was not just a natural object, but a piece of alien technology, had sparked a new wave of excitement and determination within the fleet.
"We've come a long way since the first time we encountered Oumuamua,"
Ilara continued.
"Back then, we could barely comprehend what it was, let alone where it came from. Now we have the means to follow its path and discover the truth."
The development of FTL travel had been a game-changer for humanity. It had allowed them to push beyond the confines of their own solar system, to explore and colonize distant worlds, and to establish themselves as a formidable presence in the galaxy. The journey they were about to embark on, following the trail of Oumuamua back to its origin, was the next step in that journey, a step that could change everything they thought they knew about the universe. Ilara's thoughts drifted briefly to the history of their species. For centuries, humanity had struggled with its limitations, relying on tools and technology to overcome the challenges of survival. Yet it was precisely these tools, this adaptability, that had propelled them to the stars. What others might have seen as weaknesses, humanity had turned into strengths, shaping their destiny with each new invention, each new discovery.
"Set a course for the origin of the signal,"
Ilara ordered, her voice steady and filled with resolve.
"It's time we found out who, or what, sent Oumuamua to our system."
The command was quickly relayed, and the TSV Intrepid began to hum with the power of its FTL drive. Around it, the fleet prepared to follow, a formidable force ready to face whatever lay ahead. The ships, sleek and powerful, represented the pinnacle of human engineering, a testament to the species' relentless pursuit of knowledge and expansion. As the fleet accelerated towards its destination, Ilara couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. They were about to confront a mystery that had lingered in the background of human history for centuries. The signals from Oumuamua were a call to action, a challenge to their understanding of the cosmos.
"Full speed ahead,"
she commanded, her eyes fixed on the stars.
"Let's see what's out there."
The fleet surged forward, leaving behind the familiar space of human-settled systems and heading into the unknown, where the origins of Oumuamua and perhaps a new chapter in human history awaited them. The TSV Intrepid cut through the blackness of space, its engines humming softly as it led the Terran fleet toward an uncharted star system. The journey was silent, with only the white lines of stars passing faster than light refracted by the warp bubble. Every member of the crew felt the weight of anticipation, knowing they were on the brink of a discovery that could change everything. Commander Ilara Hayes stood on the bridge, her gaze fixed on the holographic map projected before her. The path they were following had been meticulously reconstructed from the trajectory of Oumuamua, the mysterious interstellar object that had passed through their solar system a millennium ago. It had been an anomaly then, a puzzle that had defied explanation. But now, with the detection of structured signals coming from the direction Oumuamua had traveled, the puzzle pieces were beginning to fall into place. "Commander, we are approaching the coordinates where the signal strength is at its peak," Lieutenant Commander Rahul Singh reported at his station. His voice was calm, but there was an undercurrent of excitement that he couldn't quite mask. "All systems are green, and the fleet is holding formation." Ilara nodded, her mind racing with possibilities.
Bring the fleet to alert status. We don't know what we're heading into, and I want us ready for anything.
The order was relayed through the fleet, and the tension on the bridge grew palpable. The Terran fleet, composed of exploration vessels, science ships, and a few heavily armed escorts, had been assembled specifically for this mission. They were venturing into the unknown, following the faint breadcrumbs left behind by an object that had captivated human curiosity for generations. "Commander," Rahul continued, his eyes scanning the data streams, "we're picking up more detailed readings as we get closer. The signals are definitely artificial, and they're growing stronger. It's as if we're being guided toward something." Ilara frowned slightly, contemplating this new information. Oumuamua had been a mystery from the start, an object unlike any other, with an unusual shape and an inexplicable acceleration as it left their solar system. For years it had been the subject of debate and speculation, with theories ranging from natural phenomena to an alien probe. The discovery of signals in its wake had reignited interest, and now they were about to uncover the truth.
Do we have any visual on the source?
Ilara asked, her voice steady despite the anticipation that gripped her. "Not yet, Commander," Rahul replied, adjusting the sensors for maximum resolution. "We're still a few light minutes out, but whatever it is, it's massive. We'll need to approach with caution." Ilara nodded, her mind already running through possible scenarios.
Perhaps to slow to sublight speeds as we near the source. I want a detailed scan the moment we have visual confirmation.
The fleet continued its journey, the stars around them shifting as they moved deeper into the uncharted system. The silence on the bridge was punctuated only by the soft beeps and hums of the ship's systems, the crew focused on their tasks, each one aware of the significance of this moment. The journey had not been a short one. The fleet had been traveling for months, tracing the path Oumuamua had taken with painstaking precision. The object had been detected as it passed through their solar system, and while initial studies had yielded little concrete information, the advent of more advanced technology had allowed them to detect the faint signals left in its wake. These signals had pointed to a specific region of space, one that now lay directly ahead of them. "Commander, we're entering the outer perimeter of the target area," Rahul reported. "I'm detecting multiple energy signatures. They're faint, but they're there."
Bring us in closer, Ilara instructed. I want a full spectrum analysis. Let's find out what we're dealing with.
The fleet slowed as it approached the coordinates, the ships moving with precision as they neared the source of the signals. The anticipation on the bridge was almost tangible, every crew member focused on the displays that now showed the increasing complexity of the data they were receiving. "There it is," Rahul said quietly, his voice filled with awe. "We've got visual." The main display screen flickered, and then the image resolved into view. Before them was a vast structure, floating silently in the void. It was enormous, far larger than any human-made construct, and its design was unlike anything they had ever seen. The surface was covered in intricate patterns, and parts of it seemed to pulse faintly with energy, as if it were still active after all this time. Ilara stared at the screen, her breath catching slightly at the sight.
Is it a station? A ship?
We are still analyzing, Raoul replied, his fingers flying over the controls as he tried to make sense of the data. It doesn't match any known design, but it's definitely not natural. It could be a station, maybe even a repository of some kind. Ilara's mind raced with the implications.
Send out a probe. Let's get a closer look.
The command was swiftly executed, and a small, unmanned probe was launched from the Intrepid, its thrusters flaring as it made its way toward the structure. The bridge crew watched intently as the probe transmitted live footage back to the ship, revealing more details as it neared the alien construct. "It's enormous," Raoul said, his voice hushed with awe. "And these markings, there is some kind of language or code. We need to decipher this." Ilara nodded, her eyes locked on the screen.
Relay all data back to Earth Command. They need to see this. And prepare a team to analyze the structure. We're going to get answers.
The fleet held position, the ships hovering at a safe distance as the probe circled the alien structure. The data it transmitted was unlike anything humanity had encountered before, evidence of a civilization far more advanced, one that had left behind a beacon or a monument to its existence. As the probe continued its sweep, the anticipation on the bridge grew. They had followed Oumuamua across the stars, and now they stood on the brink of a discovery that could redefine everything they knew about the universe. Ilara took a deep breath, steadying herself for what lay ahead. The journey that had begun with a mysterious object passing through their solar system was now leading them to something far greater, an ancient structure, a relic of an advanced civilization, and possibly the key to understanding their place in the cosmos. "Commander," Raoul said, breaking the silence, "we are detecting an entry point. It looks like a docking bay or an airlock of some kind." Ilara's eyes narrowed as she considered their next move.
Prepare an away team. We're going in.
As the team prepared to board the shuttles and explore the structure, the fleet stood ready, engines idling as they waited for the next chapter of this journey to unfold. The path of Oumuamua had led them here, to the edge of discovery, and whatever they found inside that structure would change the course of human history forever. Inside the ancient derelict station that had once been a beacon of Saranai expansion, the atmosphere was eerily silent. The flickering lights and long-dormant systems had not seen activity in centuries. It was a relic of a bygone era, abandoned and forgotten, until today. As the Terran fleet held position around the structure, a shuttle from the TSV Intrepid docked with the station. The docking bay was vast, its design a blend of functionality and alien aesthetics, now covered in layers of dust and time. Commander Ilara Hayes led the away team, her expression calm but alert as the airlock hissed open and they stepped inside.
Commander, the atmosphere is breathable but stale.
Lieutenant Maya Chen reported as she scanned the environment.
No signs of recent activity, but the energy readings are stable.
Ilara nodded.
Keep your eyes open. We don't know what we might find here.
As they moved deeper into the station, the team marveled at the architecture, elegant and complex, yet entirely unfamiliar. The markings on the wall and the design of the corridors suggested a species of great sophistication. The flickering lights cast long shadows, adding to the sense of unease that permeated the station. Suddenly, a section of the wall before them slid open with a low, grinding sound, revealing a tall, slender figure with iridescent feathers that shimmered in the dim light. The Saranai stepped forward, his crest raised in a display of authority, though his expression was one of barely concealed disbelief. The Terrans froze, unsure of what to expect. The Saranai eyed them carefully, his gaze lingering on their advanced suits and the technology they carried. Finally he spoke, his voice smooth, but carrying an edge of condescension.
"So, the Terrans have come to our ancient outpost,"
he said, his tone almost incredulous.
"I am Laren, caretaker of this station, though it has not seen life in many of your lifetimes."
Ilara exchanged a glance with her team, then stepped forward.
I'm Commander Ilara Hayes of the Terran Fleet. We detected signals originating from this location and followed them here. We had no idea anyone still occupied this station, and you know our language?"
Laren's feathers fluttered slightly, a gesture that the Terrans couldn't quite interpret.
"We know your kind and customs. As far as the station, I would hardly call it occupied. This is a relic, nothing more. But your presence here is unexpected. We did not anticipate that the Terrans would venture so far."
Ilara remained composed, though curiosity gnawed at her.
"We've come a long way. You know of us, yet you seem surprised to see us."
"Surprised?"
Laren let out a soft, almost mocking sound.
"Indeed, the last we knew of your kind, you were, shall we say, far more concerned with the coverings on your feet than with the stars."
Ilara frowned, confused by the remark.
"I'm not sure what you mean."
Laren tilted his head, studying her as if trying to unravel the puzzle.
"Surely you must be aware of your species' reputation, of the report that has echoed through our halls for a Terran millennium. No? How curious."
The tension in the room grew as Ilara and her team exchanged uncertain glances. They had no knowledge of any report, much less one that had apparently defined humanity in the eyes of this alien species.
"Let me be clear, Commander Hayes,"
Laren continued, his tone growing sharper.
"We have no reason to believe that your kind could have developed such technology on your own. Your presence here, with that ship, is beyond what we expected of a species so focused on trivial matters. Perhaps you have deceived or manipulated another race into giving you this technology?"
Ilara's expression hardened at the implication.
"We've built this and others like it ourselves, and we've earned our place in the stars. We're not here to deceive anyone."
Laren studied her for a moment longer, then sighed, a gesture that seemed both weary and dismissive.
"I see. Perhaps I have underestimated you, though I find that difficult to believe. Nevertheless, it is not my place to question further."
He turned slightly, tapping a device on his wrist, and a holographic display appeared, showing a connection to a distant location. A moment later, the image of another Saranai materialized, a figure with a more elaborate crest and an air of authority. This was feathered sage Marvox, one of the leaders of the Saranai Council.
"Laren, what is the meaning of this interruption?"
Marvox demanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. His sharp eyes quickly locked onto the humans standing in the background.
"Are those Terran?" "Feathered Sage Marvox,"
Laren began with a deferential bow.
"Yes, it seems the Terrans have come to us, though how they managed it is beyond my understanding."
He manipulated his device, sending a data file with the station's scans of the shuttle.
"They claim these ships are theirs, but, well, I thought it best you see for yourself."
Marvox's eyes narrowed, his feathers bristling with incredulity.
"Terrans? Here? With such vessels? This must be some sort of trick."
Ilara stepped forward, her voice steady.
"I assure you, Sage Marvox, this is no trick. We followed the path of an object that passed through our solar system, an object we now know to be connected to your people. We've come in peace, seeking answers."
Marvox studied her, his expression unreadable.
"Peace, you say? Yet your presence here challenges everything we believed about your kind. Very well, you will bring your ships to Velocia. The High Council will wish to see this for themselves. Laren, see to it that they are escorted safely, lest they be obliterated within our space."
Laren bowed again, his expression unreadable.
"As you command, Feathered Sage."
The connection ended, and Laren turned back to the Terrans, his skepticism still evident.
It seems your arrival has caused quite a stir. You will follow me to Velocia, where the Council will decide what to make of this unexpected development.
Ilara nodded, her mind racing with the implications of what they had just learned. They had come seeking answers about Oumuamua, but it seemed they had stumbled into something much larger, a confrontation with a species that had dismissed them as insignificant, only to now face the reality of humanity's true capabilities. As they prepared to return to their ship, Laren's voice stopped them one last time.
And Commander Hayes, I would advise you to choose your words carefully when you meet the Council. They are not easily impressed, especially by those they consider beneath their notice.
With that, the away team returned to their shuttle, the atmosphere heavy with the weight of what lay ahead. The journey to Velocia would be one of both challenge and revelation, as humanity prepared to confront the Sarani, and perhaps finally prove that they were far more than what the ancient report had led the galaxy to believe. The grand chamber of the Sarani High Council was filled with an air of unease as its members gathered to discuss the most unexpected event in recent memory. The chamber itself was an architectural marvel, with vaulted ceilings that stretched into the heavens and walls adorned with intricate carvings depicting the Sarani's long and storied history. But today, the usual sense of pride that accompanied these meetings was replaced with something much closer to confusion, and even a hint of fear. Feathered Sage Marvox sat at the head of the assembly, his vibrant crest slightly raised, a subtle indication of his agitation. Around him, the other members of the council murmured in low voices, exchanging theories and speculations about the Terrans. The arrival of the Terran shuttle at one of their old outposts had sent shockwaves through the council, and they were still grappling with the implications.
The data from the outpost,
Marvox began, bringing the room to order,
confirms that the craft that docked there was indeed of Terran origin. However, this does not explain how a species we once dismissed as trivial could have developed or acquired such advanced technology.
Sage Nyrus, the eldest and most respected member of the council, leaned forward. Her crest, though dulled with age, still held a commanding presence.
Have we considered the possibility that this technology was not developed by the Terrans themselves? It is conceivable that they may have come into possession of it through less honorable means.
Laren's recent report echoed in the minds of those present. His initial encounter with the Terrans had been colored by skepticism, his belief that they had somehow tricked or coerced another species into providing them with the technology. This theory had quickly gained traction among the council, many of whom found it difficult to reconcile the image of shoe-obsessed primitives with the reality of interstellar travelers.
But if they did steal this technology,
Sage Ulthar interjected, his sharp voice cutting through the discussion,
why have we not encountered the true owners of these ships? Surely they would not let such a transgression go unanswered.
Sage Laren, who had been allowed to participate in the council session via hologram, nodded in agreement.
Indeed, my initial assessment was one of disbelief, but the more I consider the facts, the more I wonder if there is something we are missing. The Terrans I encountered were confident, disciplined. If they were simply thieves, I would have expected a different demeanor.
Marvox's eyes narrowed as he considered this.
Then perhaps we must revisit the original report, the one that led us to dismiss the Terrans in the first place.
A murmur rippled through the chamber. The Shoe Report, as it had come to be known, was infamous among Sarani. Filed nearly a millennium ago, it had catalogued humanity's strange obsession with footwear and concluded that they were a species more concerned with trivial matters than with the pursuit of greater knowledge or exploration. It was this report that had led the Sarani to largely ignore the Terrans, considering them a minor, inconsequential race. A hollow display activated in the center of the chamber, projecting the old report for all to see. As the text and images appeared, showing diagrams of human footwear and analysis of its cultural significance, the council members shifted uncomfortably. What had once been a source of amusement now seemed insufficient, incomplete.
We must consider the possibility that we were wrong,
Marvok said, his voice heavy with the weight of the admission.
This report was based on observations that, while thorough, did not account for the potential of the Terrans to adapt and innovate. We assumed their focus on shoes was indicative of a lack of ambition. But what if, instead, it was a sign of their ingenuity, of their ability to turn even the most mundane of objects into something more?
Sage Nyrus sighed, her crest sagging slightly.
If this is true, then we have gravely underestimated them. And now they are on their way here, bringing with them the consequences of our misjudgment.
Altar, ever the skeptic, crossed his arms.
Even if we were wrong, it does not change the fact that we have no concrete evidence of their technological capabilities beyond a single shuttle. For all we know, they could be bluffing, presenting this one ship as a facade while hiding their true, primitive nature.
But can we afford to take that risk?
Laren countered.
If the Terrans have truly developed this technology on their own, they could pose a significant challenge, or an opportunity. We must determine their true capabilities before making any decisions.
Marvox nodded slowly.
Agreed. We will proceed with caution. Laren, ensure that the Terran shuttle is escorted safely to Velocia. Once they arrive, we will evaluate their technology and their intentions.
The room fell silent as the council considered their next steps. The Saranai had always prided themselves on their knowledge, their superiority. But now, as they awaited the arrival of the Terrans, there was a growing sense of uncertainty. Had they misjudged this species so completely? And if so, what would that mean for their future? As the session drew to a close, Marvok spoke one final time, his voice firm.
We will meet these Terrans with respect, but also with caution. If they are indeed more than what our report suggested, then we must be prepared for whatever comes next. The legacy of the shoe report may have led us astray, but it is up to us to correct our course.
The council members nodded in agreement, though the unease remained. Outside, the vast expanse of space awaited the arrival of the Terrans, and with them, the answers that the Saranai had long ignored. Aboard the TSV Intrepid, the atmosphere was charged with anticipation. The shuttle that had returned from the derelict station had brought back not only the first encounter with an alien species, but also an invitation to meet the Saranai High Council on their homeworld, Velocia. For Commander Ilara Hayes and her crew, this was a moment of both historic significance and deep curiosity. In the command center, Ilara stood at the head of the large holotable, surrounded by her senior officers. The holographic display projected the path they were to follow, leading them directly to Velocia. The data provided by Laren, the Saranai representative, had been clear and precise: coordinates, flight paths, and docking procedures. But it was the man himself, the Saranai, who intrigued Ilara the most. He seemed surprised, to say the least, Lieutenant Commander Rahul Singh remarked, his brow furrowed in thought. Almost like he couldn't believe what he was seeing. Ilara nodded, her gaze focused on the holographic map.
That's because he couldn't. They must have had some knowledge of us, but clearly they didn't expect us to have developed this far. The fact that we're here, with the fleet of ships capable of FTL travel, has likely shattered whatever preconceptions they held. It's odd, though, Lieutenant Maya Chen added, her fingers tapping the console as she reviewed the data. From what we've pieced together from the signals, the Saranai are an ancient race, possibly older than most civilizations we've encountered. And yet, Their technology doesn't seem to be as advanced as ours. They still rely on slower-than-light travel for the most part, despite their long lifespans.
Maybe they didn't need to develop FTL, Rahul suggested. If you live for millennia, the urgency to develop faster travel isn't as pressing. They've likely been content to expand at their own pace, assuming no one else would surpass them. Ilara considered this, her mind turning over the possibilities.
That could be why they're so taken aback by us. They've underestimated the drive and ingenuity of a species with shorter lifespans. We've had to innovate rapidly to survive and expand, and now here we are, knocking at their door.
At that moment, the communications officer signaled Ilara. Commander Laren is requesting to rendezvous with the fleet. He's transmitting coordinates.
Bring him in,
Ilara ordered. A few moments later, the Saranai shuttle appeared on the main display, moving to meet the fleet. As it approached, Laren's image flickered onto the communication screen. He seemed composed, but there was a tension in his demeanor that hadn't been there before.
Commander Hayes,
Laren began, his tone carefully measured.
I will now guide you to Velocia. I trust your ships will follow our prescribed flight path.
Ilara smiled, unaware of the turmoil behind Laren's calm facade.
Thank you, Laren. We're looking forward to meeting your council.
As the shuttle aligned with the fleet, Laren's sensors began to scan the Terran ships more thoroughly. What he found left him in stunned silence. The Terran fleet was massive, far beyond what he had imagined from the single shuttle he had encountered earlier. Each ship was a testament to advanced engineering, bristling with technology that surpassed even the most cutting-edge Saranai designs. The energy readings indicated powerful shields, weaponry that could obliterate anything the Saranai had ever fielded, and most astonishingly, the FTL drives that allowed them to traverse the stars at speeds that made Saranai ships seem like ancient relics. For a moment, Laren's mind raced, trying to process the implications. He had assumed, hoped, that the Terrans might have stolen or borrowed technology from another race. But this was far beyond anything he could have imagined. And now he was escorting this fleet directly to Velocia, with no way to warn the Council of what was coming.
Ilara,
Laren said slowly, his voice tinged with an emotion the Terrans could not quite place.
your fleet is quite impressive. These ships, how did you develop such technology?
Ilara, still unaware of the true depth of Laren's amazement, responded with a proud smile.
It's been a long journey. We've faced many challenges, but we've always pushed forward, innovating where we could. FTL travel was one of our greatest achievements. It opened up the galaxy to us.
Laren nodded, his mind reeling. The Terrans had not just reached the stars, they had mastered them. And now they were traveling to Velocia at speeds that would have taken his own ship, Asira, about 20 Earth days to cover. Their estimated arrival time, 10 rens, or 30 minutes, as the Terrans referred to time. He quickly composed himself, realizing that it was too late to do anything but continue.
I see. You truly are remarkable. We will be at Velocia shortly. Please follow my lead.
As the fleet prepared to exit warp space and begin its final approach, Ilara turned back to her officers, still unaware of the full extent of the impact they were having on Laren.
This is it, everyone. First contact with an alien civilization. Let's make sure we represent humanity well.
The crew nodded, their excitement palpable. They were about to meet the Saranai, a species shrouded in mystery and legend, who had sent the signals that had led them here, and they were doing it in style, with a fleet that showcased humanity's progress and resilience. Meanwhile, Laren remained silent, guiding the Terrans towards Velocia. His mind was still racing, trying to reconcile the image of the shoe-obsessed primitives from the ancient report with the reality of the fleet now following him. He could only hope that the Council would be prepared for what was coming. As the fleet neared Velocia and slowed, the warped view of his planet could briefly be seen, a world of breathtaking beauty and grandeur. But for Laren, the sight of his homeworld was tinged with a new sense of dread. The Terrans were far more than they had ever anticipated, and he had no idea how his people would react when they realized just how far they had underestimated humanity. In less than one Ren now, the truth would be laid bare. The TSV Intrepid and the rest of the Terran fleet dropped out of FTL above Velocia with a silent, awe-inspiring precision. The ships emerged from the void in perfect formation, their sleek hulls reflecting the light of the distant star that bathed Velocia in a soft golden hue. Below them, the planet stretched out like a jewel, its cities and landscapes a testament to the ancient and advanced civilization that had thrived there for millennia. On the bridge of the Intrepid, Commander Elara Hayes watched as the planet came into view, her expression one of calm confidence. The transition from FTL to sublight had been seamless, a testament to the technological prowess that humanity had developed over centuries. For the Terrans, this was just another day at the office, a routine operation that was the result of years of innovation and hard work. But for the Sarenai, it was anything but routine. In the High Council chamber on Velocia, chaos reigned. The sudden appearance of the Terran fleet above their world had thrown the Council into disarray. The Sarenai had expected the Terrans to arrive, of course, but not like this. They had anticipated a slow approach, time to prepare and assess the situation. But the Terrans had arrived in mere Ren, and with a fleet that dwarfed anything the Sarenai had ever assembled. Feathered Sage Marvox stood at the center of the chamber, his feathers bristling with a mix of shock and anxiety. All feathers raised. Around him, the other sages whispered urgently, showing display of shock and awe, their voices a cacophony of concern and disbelief.
"How did they get here so quickly?"
one sage demanded, his eyes wide with fear.
"This must be some kind of trick,"
another muttered, her feathers quivering.
"No species can move this fast, not even us."
Marvox raised a hand, silencing the room. His mind was racing, trying to process what had just happened. The Terrans had not only arrived far earlier than expected, but they had done so with a fleet that was unlike anything the Sarenai had ever encountered. Their sensors were scrambling to scan the ships, but the data they were receiving was incomplete, garbled. Nothing seemed to make sense.
"Our technology cannot penetrate their shields,"
Sage Nyrus reported, her voice tight with concern.
"We can't get an accurate reading on their capabilities, but what little we can detect, it's far beyond anything we've ever seen. If they were to attack, we would have no way to defend ourselves."
The room fell silent as the gravity of the situation sank in. The Sarenai had long considered themselves the pinnacle of galactic civilization, wise, advanced, and secure in their superiority. But now, as they faced the reality of the Terran fleet hovering above their world, that confidence was shaken to its core.
"We must contact them,"
Marvox said finally, his voice steady but strained.
"We must understand their intentions and proceed with caution. This meeting will be one of the most important in our history."
The council members nodded in agreement, though the unease remained palpable. The Sarenai had never been in such a vulnerable position, and the realization was a bitter one. A transmission was sent to the Terran fleet, inviting them to a formal meeting. The invitation was carefully worded, polite but guarded, reflecting the uncertainty that gripped the council. The response came quickly, an acknowledgement and an agreement to meet on neutral ground. Minutes later, a communication channel was opened, and the image of Commander Elara Hayes appeared on the central holo display in the council chamber. Her demeanor was calm, her expression professional, but there was an unmistakable air of confidence that unsettled the Sarenai even further.
"Feathered Sage Marvox,"
Elara began, her voice clear and steady.
"I appreciate your willingness to meet with us. We come in peace, seeking to establish a dialogue between our peoples."
Marvox studied her carefully, his mind racing as he tried to gauge the Terran's intentions.
Commander Hayes, your arrival was unexpected. We did not anticipate you would reach us so quickly.
Ilara smiled slightly, her tone light.
We were eager to honor your invitation. Our technology allows us to traverse great distances in a short amount of time, something we're quite proud of.
The subtle boast was not lost on the Council, and Marvox felt a pang of unease. The Terrans were not only technologically advanced, but they were also confident, perhaps even bold. This was not a species that could be easily intimidated or manipulated.
We welcome you to Velocia,
Marvox continued, choosing his words carefully.
Our council is eager to learn more about your people and your capabilities.
As are we,
Ilara replied smoothly.
This is a historic moment for both our civilizations, and we hope it will lead to mutual understanding and cooperation.
The formalities continued, but the underlying tension was palpable. For the Sarenai, this meeting was a test, a chance to gauge the true nature of the Terrans and to determine how they should proceed. But for Ilara and her crew, it was an opportunity to showcase humanity's progress and to establish their place on the galactic stage. As the discussion unfolded, the Sarenai continued to scan the Terran fleet, desperate for any information that could give them an edge, but every attempt was met with failure. The Terran ships were simply too advanced, their technology impenetrable to the Sarenai's best efforts. In the end, the meeting concluded with an agreement to continue talks in person. A neutral station was selected as the meeting place, where representatives from both sides would convene to discuss the future of their relations. As the communication ended, Marvox turned to his fellow sages, his expression grim.
We must prepare for every possibility. These Terrans are far more than we ever imagined, and we cannot afford to underestimate them again.
The council members nodded solemnly, the weight of their situation pressing down on them. The first contact had been made, but the real test was yet to come. Meanwhile, aboard the Intrepid, Ilara Hayes and her crew prepared for the next stage of their mission. The Sarenai were clearly rattled, but that was to be expected. What mattered now was how they could turn this encounter into a lasting relationship, one that would benefit humanity as it continued its journey among the stars. As the fleet adjusted its position above Velocia, the anticipation grew. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again.